noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome in. It is the Hans and Scotty Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, live at Sound Sleep Medical. We're going to be talking a lot more about that today. Thanks for joining us. Scotty G is on a flight, headed out to call the Utah State UCLA game that's going to be coming up in just a couple of days. Excited to get that call, and more excited to be joined by a GOAT. There's nothing better than starting a show off with a GOAT. And great job by Lloyd and great job by everybody that can make it happen. And so excited to be joined by the legend, the myth, the man, the great Tom Holmoe to start the show. Tom, how you doing?
Wow, how you doing, Hans? It's great to be with you today.
Well, it's better to be with you, Tom. It's always great to hear your voice, and it's always great to catch up with you on air. And now you've had a little time to let your decision to sink in. Have you maybe changed your mind, and can we get you to stay for 3, maybe 5, 10 more years?
The decision has been made, and I'm sticking to
it. No minds have been changed yet, huh?
No.
So as it settled in, and you're starting to make future plans, how do you feel about things, Tom? I mean, the next stage of your life.
Well, I feel really good. I think there's 2 concerns along the line the last couple of years as I'm getting older, and there's no magic number for me as far as years of service or age or something like that. But I did really want to have 2 concerns. One is my wife and my family, our future there, and the second is future BYU and our athletic department. And I think that my concern was to make sure that we could be taken care of and in a good position to make this transition for that, and also with my family. So I feel like we're in a good spot with both sides and ready to go.
Tom Holmoe, current athletic director of BYU, making the decision to step into his next portion of life. Great world of retirement, and of course a lot on the horizon. And as you mentioned, some really good things on the horizon for BYU too. Tom, I know you wouldn't step away from this job unless there were some incredible prospects that you had ultimate faith in.
Well, I do. I think that, you and I have talked about this, Hans, as alums from the football program, both of us, that, this isn't something that's just recent history. The history of BYU, the brand of BYU, goes back well before you and I arrived at BYU. And so every time I see individual coaches or players, individual fans, especially the old-timers that come up and tell me stories about the early days of Lavelle, or even if we go into basketball, about Kreshimir Kosic, I always give credit to those individual fans, coaches, players who had an impact on building this brand. And in recent years, with technology, I think with going into the Big 12, our brand has been able to be amplified more and more. So I think we're in a good spot, but it's super challenging. This conference is legit. And as we battle day in and day out in every sport, people realize it, and we realize that there's a lot of work to do to maintain the success going forward.
How much of a part of the hiring process will you be, Tom?
I'm not really involved in it. I think it's important for them to do that outside of me. I'm 100% supportive of the future. So they've talked to me, and I've talked to them. And when I say that, talking about President Shane Reese. But I have great confidence in President Reese and the Board of Trustees that they'll make the right choice to go forward for BYU.
What I've loved is over the years I've got to know your staff pretty well in Brian Santiago, Chad Lewis, Liz Darger, Al Moldova. You've got an amazing staff underneath you. Just talk about that staff that you've had working with you over the years and just how much confidence you've had in them and them as potential hirings to that position.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that I have confidence in transitioning myself away from athletics and having that team be able to be solid in the future. You add on the coaching staffs, particularly our 2 big teams in football and basketball with Kalani and Kevin, and we're in a good spot. I know that those leaders in the individual sports, most all of our sports, as well as our administrative wing, are in a good position. They know each other. They've built this together, and there's enough people that are going forward that this should continue to go forward with a new look. It'll be different, and I think it should be. I think that in any transition, you'd like to think that, it's not going to be the same, or, it could be get a lot better. It really depends on a lot of factors, but the key factor is the people that are in place, and I feel good about that.
I'm curious, Tom, just taking a step way back, at what point did you think in your life you'd be an athletic director? Because I know you came back in the 90s and you GA'd at BYU with the coaching staff, and I know that you coached all the way through the 90s. At what point did you think, you know what, I'm going to be an athletic director?
Well, it's funny. When I was a student at BYU, I remember going in and talking to Glenn Tuckett. I did a term paper on a factor in athletics, and we were talking, and at that point in time I thought, that's a pretty cool job that Glenn Tuckett has. And that goes back to like probably 1980, but it wasn't like that was my only quest. But after I retired from football, my decision was to go into athletic administration, but Lavelle brought me back to BYU when Dick Fell had a heart attack and asked me if I would coach the DBs for that year while he recovered. And that was something I really wanted to do, to be able to take care of my dear coach, Coach Felt, take care of Lavelle and the team and give something back. And during that period of time, I got my education in athletic administration at BYU, but I fell in love with coaching. So I took a little left-hand turn, and then after about 14 years, finally got back to BYU into administration, which I had typically wanted to do in the first place.
I love that you did that. And, I saw you at a gymnastics meet. I was out there supporting a teammate's daughter, and I've seen you at baseball games, and I know you're about at every football practice and scrimmage that they have. I know how much you love this. And one thing I don't think people see as much is the importance of an athletic director. I know my athletic directors, Rondo Feldberg and Val Hell, Tom, I adored them. I used to go into Rondo's office and wrestle around with him, and I'd pick him up, throw him on my shoulders, twirl him around a little bit. He loved to wrestle. And every time I see Val, I still give him a big hug. And those guys were such a support in my life. I know Lavelle was like a father figure to me, but my athletic directors were a higher-up that gave me a good example and gave me direction and gave me confidence. And I don't think people understand how important the athletic director is in their relationship with the players. That's got to be one of the primary aspects of being an athletic director, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is for me. Knowing a lot of athletic directors across the country, I think each and every one of the directors has come to their position in a different way. So for me, coming through the world of college athletics as a player, and then as a professional athlete, and then as a coach, my expertise or my area of time spent is in coaching and playing. So my emphasis now as an AD, I spend a lot of time with the coaches and players. I do have some friends that are very good in the business that came up not really as coaches. They may have been athletes in high school, but maybe not in college. But they came up through fundraising or marketing or some other area, maybe compliance or law. And so they have a different background. So there's a different ways to attack it. And I think you can do it in different ways. But for me, that was a natural to just stay close to the student athletes and make sure that I could pave a path for them that would be clear for their success.
How much enjoyment do you get out of sitting back and watching Kevin Young work his magic? You guys put together this formula, built this coaching staff. This staff has built this team. And how much enjoyment do you get out of just sitting back and watching this thing play out?
Well, I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I think it's really important. He's put together a really, really good staff. And Kevin and that staff have connected with those players. And it's a great team. When I say team, there's a lot of people around it. These days, you wouldn't be surprised, but a lot of people would, to know how many people on the periphery are included in the heart and soul of that team. You have a strength and conditioning coach. You have a nutritionist. You have a trainer. You have you have academic advisors. You have psychologists. There's so many people in college athletics now that support the success of teams. And that team, Kevin's put it together, handpicked each and every one of those people to be with him and to do it the way that he desires to do it. And right now, they're grooving, so I'm really happy.
So as they step into this opening round against VCU, do you step in with expectations, Tom, or do you just go in with an open mind?
Hey, I'm a coach, so I go into every game thinking we're going to win every game, and you know you're going to go into a game knowing you're going to have every challenge. So in every game, there'll be ups and downs. And the key is to be able to overcome those trials that hit you. And we've seen that this year. We've overcome a lot of trials and won at the end of games. We've struggled at certain points and have not been able to overcome. So there's nothing like March Madness where you get great teams where everybody's there for a good reason. They've won. They've had success. And now they're there to play for the number one team in the country. And everybody has a chance, and they're dreaming the best dreams they possibly can. But it all starts Thursday for us. It starts for some teams tonight in the playing games. And I really believe that there's extra added pressure. There's way more intensity. The added interest from across the country. You can't go anywhere, turn on the radio or TV or social, and not be bombarded with the bracket. So this is just one part of American sport history and tradition that's culturally amazing, and I'm super excited for it.
Man, it's hard to find a football season and a basketball season that are back-to-back like this, that have had this much success, rolling off 9 straight in the football season and then finishing with a big win against Colorado, and this crazy push at the end of the season for BYU to get themselves to a 6th seed. It's just kind of an incredible run back-to-back with BYU football and BYU basketball. How much impact does that have on the overall university success?
Well, I think it does a lot. I mean, we have a large campus community involving students, faculty, staff, the people that live in the community and support the Cougars. And it's just great to see. There's a word that's being used a lot in sports these days, and that's intentionality. And I think that when you look at the Kalani's team and Kevin's team this year, they are very, very serious and very intentional about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And like I went in yesterday and sat in with the football coaches and watched them break down spring practice for a day. And I was super impressed with the intentionality of what they're going to do on that day that's going to lead to success next fall. And the same thing happens with Kevin and his staff. One of my favorite things to do is go up there and just be a fly on the wall and watch it, because I can sense when the players and the coaches are connecting, and they do when everybody understands the common goals.
Well, it's incredible what BYU is doing, and you can't help but think that there's some type of financial impact. Have you seen kind of an increased financial effort towards the football and basketball teams into NILs and coaching retention?
Well, this is a big change in college athletics, and I think in the last 2 or 3 years, as we have transitioned or guided our way through collectives and NIL and transfer portal, it's a change for many fans, and some fans really don't like it, and some fans are intrigued by it. But the fact of the matter is this is where we are, and this is where we're going. So as fans and administration, as coaches and student athletes, we all have to adapt. Sports in any area, whether it's Little League, high school, college, or pro, is about change. It's about transitions, and it's about adapting and being able to stay ahead of the curve. And everybody's trying to do that. So if you look at that right now, I think our fans have adjusted and have adapted rather efficiently. And I think for that matter, we've had a little bit more of a success financially with donations and sponsorships and things like that have helped us and will help us going forward. So when you talk about momentum and strength going forward with our teams, man, it's Cougar Nation. And we're on fire right now. It's a good thing.
Well, it is a good thing. And I've talked about this, Tom. I said with NIL, what you did was you engaged your fan base into competition. Largely, you got your fan base to be competitive, because a fan base can actually sway outcomes if they get competitive with their money and they want to flex out their sponsorship dollars and they want to get involved with NIL, then they can directly impact the potential outcome of a football or basketball team. And I said this, going back to when NIL was first engaged, and I said, you got to watch out, because when you spur the BYU fan base into competition, it's a pretty competitive fan base, Tom, that I've found.
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. I go back to the tradition and culture of BYU athletics that goes back decades and decades, Lavelle's time and before. And I would say that's a savvy fan base. So they wanted to know the changes. So I've had numerous discussions and heated discussions about exactly how it goes and how NIL works and revenue share works and transfer portal works. And when you have a very educated conversation and each other can learn from each other, they've come on board. It's been a little bit tricky sometimes to get some people, and some people are like, look, I'm not jumping into NIL, but I'll help in other ways. And for me, that's fine. I mean, to each his own. But you're right. BYU donors, ticket holders, sponsors have come out in droves, more numbers than I ever dreamt possible. But I think it's built on the brand. This just can't happen overnight. I think that this has to be something that you waken the giant and you move forward with it. But you have to continually teach and train them to understand, honestly, what's going on. And we've had some ups and downs in trying to have these conversations, and they're not over, Hans. What has to happen in the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, there's going to be more changes that you and I aren't even anticipating right now. And the fan base will have to understand you have to bring the fan base. For us, Cougar Nation, you have to bring them along. Like there's something that happened the other night at our Utah BYU basketball games where some of our rock people that have been to every game couldn't get into the game because it was sold out to the seat. And we're going to have to figure out a way for the future to make that to where it's more palatable for the greatest fans there ever were. Yeah. And we're going to do that. It hasn't been a flawless season. There's been a lot of ups and downs behind the scenes that we're always constantly working on, whether it's in athletics or in tickets or in sponsorships or whatever it might be. But I'm just so proud of all the Cougar Nation that has come along for the ride, and I think they're enjoying it.
Well, I think they're enjoying it. I think they're making a big impact. I'm seeing the improvements, and we're seeing the jump. We're seeing the jump in coaching retention. We're seeing the jump in transfer portal acquisitions. We're seeing the jump in recruits and signees, and it's just been an impressive thing to watch. And I know you mentioned the ever-changing landscape, and as you're kind of winding things down on an illustrious career, how much are things going to change, Tom? Because I got to imagine at some point we're just talking about your time in the NFL or my time in the NFL. It's going to be signed contracts, salary caps, and there's got to be some structure. And do you think that'll come sooner than later?
Oh, absolutely, positively. Things will change. I say in my 20 years tenure as athletic director, the first 15 were very similar. And it was, I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was, you could predict pretty much how things were going. Now, these last 5 years, we have people on board in our athletic department. One in particular, Dallin Moody, he is our chief strategic officer. And really, he is an auditor and he is a strategy man. And we get together every single day at work to look and anticipate and chart the future that we really don't know what's coming. But you have to put in scenarios to where you think it might be going. And then you adjust as you go. You adjust your sails as you travel. And I think it's invigorating. I'm bullish for the future of BYU athletics in the scene. It's just going to be different. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm transitioning out. I think we need new blood. And I think we need new ideas that I might not have, but I know other people will. Because like you said, if I was still in the NFL right now, we'd be wearing, they'd still be wearing leather helmets. Things change, and things are going to change in the future for college athletics, but we'll be right there with them.
Yeah, that's for sure, Tom. Before we let you go, is there a timeline for you to hand over the keys and make the announcement for a hire?
No, I mean, like I said, I'm not really involved in that, supportive of how they go, but it's just a process that our president and board of trustees are involved with. And in the meantime, I'm pushing hard. We got a basketball game Thursday. My pedal is to the metal. We got a lot to do, and I'm not cruising for a minute. When the time comes, when I turn over the keys, I'll just drop them and I'll turn my back and walk away.
Well, Tom, from an alumni and a guy that's connected with hundreds of alumni, and we all talk about you behind your back, we all love you, man. And we're all so glad that you've been there for the years you've been there and proud of the work that you've done. And you're handing the keys over to a Ferrari, which, that's a pretty incredible thing to say, Tom. I mean, you're handing the keys over to a well-oiled engine that is ready to crank. It's in a much better position than it was when you took the keys, and you really can't say anything more about a man and his job. So really appreciate all you've done, Tom, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you. And, you mentioned something. I oftentimes will go into the football room and have a chance to address the football team, and I tell them that, hey, I'm not addressing the football team today as the athletic director. I'm addressing the football team as an alum of this team. And in my 30 years of being at BYU as a player, coach, and administrator, my favorite role is football alum. And so to me and you are alums, and thousands out there that are alums, there's something sweet about that, and I'll never forget that. So I look at this year's team and realize those will be football alums, and that's what gives me the strength and the incentive to march forward, is just knowing what it has done for you and me, and knowing what it can do for those kids. So let's go, Cougs.
Let's go, Cougs. Hey, and by the way, if you ever want it to be the Tom Holmoe Show featuring Scotty G and Hans Olsen, just let us know. We'll build a three-man show. We'll hand the mic over to you, Tom. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. There you go. Tom Holmoe stepping away from a job that he's been doing since 2005. He took over that athletic directing department while I was still playing professional football, and he's done an incredible job. You think about where BYU was when he took over and where they are now, the Big 12 movement, the current coaches that are in place. BYU's getting ready to take on this VCU team on Thursday as a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament, back-to-back 6 seeds over the last couple of years, losing coaches, replacing coaches. Tom's done an incredible job, and appreciate him taking a few minutes to jump on with us. More Hans and Scotty coming up.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The one thing I do like is that nobody's satisfied with what we did last year. I think this is kind of another jump, and everyone's demanding more from each other. And it's nice when the players are saying it, not the coaches. That was evenly distributed with Bourget and Hillstead. Those guys got all the work with the 2s and with the 3s. And then Jake took all the reps with the 1s. I really feel good about where we're at with 1.5 of our depth. So with a lot of our 1s and probably half of our 2s, we just need to make that get to 2.5 by the time we end spring. And I think we're getting there closely.
I still love listening to Kalani talk. It cracks me up. Obviously, BYU is trying to identify their number 2 quarterback, and he talked a little bit about it right there. Hillstead and Bourget are going to continue to fight it out for the number 2 spot, and Jake Retzlaff obviously is going to retain that number 1 spot, but they're in a really good position going into the season with Jake Retzlaff as a returning starter that make him a full 2-year starter with 4 starts going back in the 2023 season. So Jake Retzlaff with plenty of reps and a really good understanding of this offense. Before we jump into some of this, let's get out to some Jazz tickets at the Jazz Ticket Tuesday. Caller number 12 right now at 801-575-ZONE is going to win a pair of tickets to go see the Utah Jazz versus the Boston Celtics on Friday the 21st at the Delta Center. All you got to do is be caller number 12, 801-575-ZONE, and you can win those tickets to get out to a Jazz Celtics game coming up on Friday. So you heard right there, Kalani Sitake, BYU scrimmage over the, whatever it was, hour and a half, 2-hour period that they went through yesterday. They were at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. I'm sure that there were some game scenarios that they put out on the field, and they probably rolled through quite a few reps going first, second, third, and fourth strings, just trying to find the talent. And, the tough thing right now is BYU's got some tough decisions to make. They've got a roster that goes way deep, and they got to find some room on that roster. And there's some really tough decisions that are going to be made, not just at BYU, but across the board with Utah State and the University of Utah. These rosters have to clean up and get somewhere around that 105, and a lot of them are going to be sitting in that 120 to 140 range going into spring ball. So some really tough decisions, and guys are out there through spring ball. It's probably a different level of spring ball compared to years past, because a lot of guys are out there playing for a job, playing for a scholarship, playing for a spot on the team, playing to be able to be a part of the team. And that's a pretty difficult thing for these kids at this age that are continuing their college careers. And, they've got classes to worry about, and they've got practice to worry about, and they've got health to worry about, and they've got their personal life to worry about. These kids are just loaded with responsibility, and spring ball is really difficult. So Utah spring ball ready to kick off. Utah State, I know they're convening today, and they're getting things kicked off, and we're going to pretty much have full-fledged spring ball going throughout the state starting today. And I pulled up Utah's roster, and there's some exciting things. There's some things to be really excited about for the University of Utah. First and foremost, I think this might be one of the best offensive lines that you're going to find at the University of Utah in quite some time. And there's been some really good offensive lines. But having Michael Mokofisi, Spencer Fano, Jaron Kump, Caleb Lomu, Tanoa Tagiai, and then having guys like Ike Garcia, who I know Ike was dealing with some injuries, but he's all healed up and he should be ready to go coming up in this 2025 season. I think this offensive line is going to be really solid. You've got good news like Lavani Damuni is returning to that linebacker position. So you're going to have Lavani Damuni, Jonathan Hall, and Lander Barton available. That's fantastic. You've got these young prospects. I can't wait to see Elijah Ellis. He's another Luther Ellis son that's going to be up and coming. I'm interested to see guys like John Henry Daly, who is a BYU transfer to that defensive end position, who set pretty much every sacking record you could in the state of Utah at the high school level, and now he continues his second year out there with the University of Utah. You've got the return of Smith Snowden. I know that the University of Utah may have lost a talent or two to the portal, but they were able to retain guys like Smith Snowden that are going to make a massive difference. They retain guys like Spencer Fano. They retain guys like Logan Fano, Teo Johnson, Nate Ritchie. They were able to keep those guys. And then on the offensive side, I'm really excited because we get to see the emergence of Devin Dampierre. We get to see the development of Jason Beck. We get to see the unification of Marky Atawaya, Jason Beck, along with the longest tenured assistant coach on the offensive side of the ball in Jim Harding, and how those three guys really work together. And I'm hoping that it's fluid. I'm hoping that they've got a good relationship and that they're able to work on the same page, because I know Jason Beck is a brilliant offensive mind. Obviously, Jim Harding is a brilliant run game and offensive front mind. And Marky Atawaya is an incredible recruiter. And he's a guy that I played with in college, and I know that he understands that running back position. And that could be a really good group. You throw in Freddie Winningham and you throw in a couple of other guys, and you've got yourself an incredible offensive staff, and we'll see how they mesh. So I've got a lot of optimism across the board. I know people are asking, well, what about the quarterback depth? Okay, well, if you don't have Devin Dampierre, then you're working between Isaac Wilson, who entered the portal but came back, and Nate Johnson, who has all kinds of athleticism that you can include in all kinds of different packaging. So you got some options there. They've actually got a deep quarterback room. Now, I'm not saying deep with experience and deep with confidence, but they've got 7 quarterbacks in that room right now. Actually, I think it's 8 quarterbacks in that room right now because I think that they were able to keep Dallin Ingman on that roster. So they got a deep quarterback room, and we'll probably see a couple of guys start to surface there. But excited for spring ball. All of it's kicking off. BYU's actually winding down a little bit. BYU doesn't have a ton of spring ball left. They'll pause for the Big 12 Pro Days as a lot of these athletes are headed out to Dallas. And, man, I wish I could get out to Dallas. I actually ran into Tyler Batty, BYU defensive end, yesterday. Had a long conversation about him going out to Dallas and his pro day. Really excited and proud of him. But some big things ahead for him. And hopefully these guys can all perform well at the Big 12 Pro Day coming up next week. So a lot on the horizon. Spring ball in action. And Lloyd, you better get your highlighter together because I've got my rosters in front of me. And I've got, between BYU and Utah, I've got 50, let's see, 54.
Don't tell me 50 Cougars.
No.
Oh,
between BYU and Utah, I've got 54 guys that are a must for the 60 and 60. So we're going to have to eliminate some of those guys because Utah State has put together a heck of a roster too. But, man, I'm looking at the returning talent for both BYU and Utah, and there's a lot to be excited about. Not only the
both
returning,
teams are poised to have Utah should have a bounce back year. There's no way I can see, unless they are the most unlucky team in the country, like injuries wise, whatever. There's no way they replicate what happened last year with Utah. I just don't see that happening.
No,
I don't see Kyle Whittingham having another season like that at the helm.
By the way, Steve Bartle's going to join us at 1:30. And I'll just tease this for Utah fans. We're going to jump into the running back position. I was looking at the running back room, Lloyd, and it's really weird not having at least 2 names that you know that you can lean on, and guys that have been around for years. But this is your running back room right now: Wayshawn Parker, Daniel Prey, Nakari Rogers, Devin Green, Lathan Biddle, Omar Shaw, and Frankie Goodson. That is your spring roster running back room. So we'll talk to Steve Bartle about that running back room, and we'll get his thoughts on areas of strength like the offensive line, maybe the defensive end position, definitely the linebackers, and then areas where you feel like you got to tighten some things up, the running back room, and maybe a bit in that wide receiver room. We'll talk about those things all coming up at 1:30 with Steve Bartle. We'll take a quick one, come back to what you may have missed. We got a big show for you. Not only did we have Tom Holmoe, which was fantastic, you're going to hear from Ryan Odom, head coach of Utah State, as they get ready for their matchup against UCLA. And then we're going to take a UCLA look with Josh Lewin. He's the play-by-play announcer for UCLA. He'll join us at 2:05. And so much more. If you missed that Tom Holmoe interview and you're interested in where BYU is with their athletic director and what the future looks like, you'll be able to catch that at KSLSports.com. Oh, and don't forget, go fill out that bracket. Go get that bracket done. Lloyd, Miss Amanda Olson filled one out last night. I don't know if Jessica fills out a bracket, but Amanda Olson threw her hat into the ring last night and put her bracket together.
Mama will fill out one for the kids because the kids like to take part in it. They like to try to help out and put one together.
Well, you tell Jessica she needs to fill one out. We got to get Jessica. Jessica knows more about basketball than you or I.
Well, that's a fact.
Oh, man, she's the best. So get out there, KSLSports.com. You'll see what's it called, Bracket Mayhem. You got
KSL Sports Basketball Mayhem.
You got to scroll down. Mayhem. You got to scroll down a little bit, and you'll see the box. And you got $1 million on the line for a perfect bracket. Somebody is going to win $1,000 for sure, and then another person's going to win $500. Anybody that finishes above JJ's bracket, you're going to be thrown into a pool, and we're just going to pick a random winner of the $500. So there's a lot of fun things. Just go to KSLSports.com. You're not working anyway. You're listening to this online right now. You're not working. Just go to KSLSports.com right now. Fill it out, Basketball Mayhem. Click on that link. Just fill it out. It's really quick and easy. Just click button by button, and you can make your selections. All right, we'll take a quick one. Come back. What you may have missed next.
Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah, we've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Speaking of the Utah Hockey Club, they've got a big one tonight against the Oilers. Oilers, obviously in the Western Conference, they hold one of the three seeds in their division. So right now they are a playoff team. They're not even a wild card team. They're just a straight-up playoff team in the Pacific Division of the Western Conference. Utah Hockey Club, with a win tonight against the Oilers, they could put themselves in a three-way tie for that second and final wild card spot in the West. So they are directly in competition. They are in the hunt. This game against the Oilers tonight is a nationally televised game. I think we're finally starting to see them get some attention because every game is a playoff game, and the Oilers are very good. But Utah Hockey Club tonight, puck drop at 7 o'clock against the Oilers. They've got to have this one. Now, this finishes off a 3-game road trip.
Should be easy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they only have Connor McJesus, but whatever.
Oh, yeah. It's yeah, oh, no, it's no big problem.
Should be a cakewalk.
For anybody that watched the Four Nations and watched McJesus with a puck on his stick, it is a thing of beauty. That guy was born to play this game. So Utah Hockey Club, they definitely have an uphill climb against the Oilers. But this finishes off a 3-game road trip. And then they come home for 3 games, and they can make up some real ground in the points. If they could come home for this 3-game stand and find themselves 3-0, they can make up some real ground. So I like where the Utah Hockey Club is right now. As far as the Utah Jazz go, they put together their 10-game losing streak yesterday against the Chicago Bulls. So
didn't think it was possible, but they did it.
Well, they stuck to the game plan, Lloyd, and they said we can do whatever we want to do. And they suffer a 111-97 loss to the Chicago Bulls. They're at the Delta Center. Keontae George, Larry Markkinen each had 16 points. At one point, they tied it. It was like 36-36. But, the Jazz got to do what they got to do, and that is get themselves the best shot at that lottery bowl. They want that 14%, and they're right in line to do that. So we'll see the Utah Jazz finish out the season probably with 2 more wins would be my guess, Lloyd, out of their final, 14, 15 games? As they finish this season out, put them in the lottery ball position. And that's exactly what they need to do. All right, we are live at Sound Sleep Medical, hanging out with Melissa. And Melissa, we've got an incredible opportunity for people to get healthy. And I always talk about this. How important is your health? And you get people that are on these journeys to find good health. Well, I'm going to eat right, or I'm going to get the exercise. I can't stress to you, in every health department, I graduated with a health science degree. In every health study, every health department, sleep is as important as anything else out there that you can do for your health. And I don't think people pay attention to that.
Right. I mean, we all know what it feels like to, have a day when you haven't had a good night's sleep. It's hard to be tired. And some people are doing that day after day after day. They just cannot wait. As soon as they wake up, they can't wait to go to bed again. And that's a hard way to live, but also, Hans, if you're not sleeping well, if your oxygen isn't where it should be at night, it's linked to so many health issues. I don't think people understand, things like anxiety, depression, high blood sugar levels, like if you're pre-diabetic, maybe you have high blood pressure that's not responding well to medication. And then down the road, more serious stuff like dementia, stroke. I mean, it's not something you want to deal with.
Let alone weight retention. People need to understand that if you're trying to lose weight and you're not getting the proper sleep, It is an inhibitor. You cannot lose the weight that you could possibly lose if you're getting the right amount of sleep. It changes that.
Yeah.
So even your ability to lose weight changes when you get good sleep. So if you've ever worried about having sleep apnea, if you stir or you snore or your partner says you snore, or maybe it's not you. Maybe you're one of our female listeners and you're thinking about your husband. Oh, my gosh, he's got problems. We have a free sleep screening and a free sleep consultation. All you got to do is call 801-285-9731. That's 801-285-9731. And Melissa, tell them what they get for free when they call.
Okay. You know, a lot of people have postponed a sleep screening or a sleep test because they don't want to do it in a hospital or sleep somewhere strange, and it's very expensive. This is something you can do at home in your own bed for free. You swing by one of our 6 offices, pick up a little kit of equipment, take it back to your own house, sleep with it one night, bring it back to us the next day. We'll download it, give you those results. All of that is free, completely no obligation. And this is a full comprehensive sleep screening. It's not less than. You know, our fix for sleep apnea is this custom oral appliance. And health insurance companies will usually pay, or at least help pay for it. But they're going to want a test done before they'll pay for it. Our at-home test will check that box for your insurance companies.
And once we figure out what's going on with your sleep, the oral appliance is going to fix it. And that's what we do here at Sound Sleep. So we'll figure out what's going on with your sleep, and then we've got something to help fix that. If the results come back that you're not sleeping right, we'll get that oral appliance going. And it's not the CPAP. It's not this crazy device that you've got to clean daily and you've got all this upkeep and it's bulky and it affects your ability to sleep. It's just something you pop in your mouth as you're plugging your cell phone in at the end of the night and putting it on your nightstand. You pop in this oral device. It's just like a mouthpiece, and it opens up those airways and helps you sleep. And to figure all this out, it's free. Free sleep screening, free sleep consultation. Just call 801-285-9731. Now, we're here at the Sandy location, but we've got 6 locations: Clearfield, Murray, Sandy, American Fork, Provo, and St. George. So we can help you in any of those areas. 801-285-9731.